We can make all the predictions we want, but the games still need to get played. What's going on, everyone? I hope you're all having a great Sunday. I hope you're all ready for the Super Bowl today. I know it's going to be a good game. So if you're tuning in, I hope your team wins, whoever that may be. All right. And before I get into it, if you all haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video. Share this out with anyone you know. I would greatly appreciate it. It would mean a lot to me. I'm on the road to 400 subscribers. And for everyone that has subscribed so far, thank you so much. It means the world to me. All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Pecota standings. Okay. So Pecota came out with these projections predicting where teams would place in the 2024 season. And I wanted to pull that up so I could share that with all of you. All right. So these are the projections that they came out with, right? So this is the AL side. So if we go down the AL East and look at the teams and where they think they will finish, and then if we go down to the AL Central, okay, just want to make sure that you all see that, and then the AL West, okay, and then real quick we'll go to the NL East, NL Central. All right. And then, sorry about that. And then the NL West. All right. So this is what they're projecting. Now, I want to go through each of those divisions and tell you what I think and whether or not I agree or disagree with what they are projecting. Now, if we start with the AL East, they are projecting that the New York Yankees are going to finish in first place. Toronto is going to finish in second. The Orioles finishing third. Tampa Bay is fourth. Boston finishes last place. Now, I could see the Yankees finishing at the top of the division, especially with the additions that they made. And they're going into 2024, I feel as though they have a stronger chance of finishing at the top of the division, but I'm certainly not counting the Baltimore Orioles out. You know, they did finish first place last season, and they could very well do it this season, especially with the addition of Corbin Burns. So I do disagree that they will finish third in the division. This is still a very young team, but full of talent. And they also added Corbin Burns to their rotation. So this is a team to still look out for. So if it was me, I would flip Toronto and Baltimore. So I would put Baltimore second, Toronto third, and I would leave Tampa Bay fourth and Boston fifth. Okay, so for me, it would be New York, Baltimore, Toronto, Tampa Bay, Boston. And it's going to be a challenge, right, for the Yankees to finish at the top of the division because Baltimore is going to give them a hard time, and the Yankees are going to have to earn their spot. But I do think that they will finish at the top of the division. But, you know, the Baltimore Orioles are the one team that they're really going to have to worry about. Okay, so those are my projections for the AL East. So, again, New York, Baltimore, Toronto, Tampa Bay, Boston. Okay, so those are my projections. All right. Now, if we go to the AL Central, you know, this I could potentially see with the Twins finishing at the top of the division again, and then followed up by Cleveland second place, and then looks like they are projecting Detroit to finish third, Kansas City fourth, the Chicago White Sox fifth. Now, Minnesota did lose Sonny Gray during free agency, and then they also traded Jorge Polanco to the Mariners. But they made some moves to try and improve their team. I could see them finishing first place, but the team to look out for, and to me, this is going to be the surprise team of the AL Central, is going to be the Kansas City Royals. The Kansas City Royals were quietly good this offseason. They were adding players to improve their team. All right. I mean, they just extended their young star, Bobby Witt Jr., but they also have added pitchers Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, relievers Chris Stanton and Will Smith, and they added an outfield bat in Hunter Renfroe. So they did make some additions to their team, and don't be surprised if they suddenly shoot up in the division. Okay, I could see them personally. I could see them finishing second place or even third. So they could be that surprise team in the AL Central. Again, they made some moves this offseason. They were one of the small teams that made some moves to try and improve their roster. So if you ask me, I think we go Minnesota. I'll go Minnesota, Cleveland, Kansas City, Detroit, Chicago White Sox. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas City finishes in second place. All right. I really wouldn't be, especially with the additions that they made. So those are my projections. So I would go Minnesota, Cleveland, Kansas City, Detroit, Chicago White Sox. So those are my projections for the AL Central. So not too far off, but again, we'll see what happens. The games still need to get played. Now we move to the AL West. Now the AL West, they have the Houston Astros finishing at the top of the division, which I could understand why, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. The reason being is because the Texas Rangers are the defending World Series champions, and I would automatically put them over Houston, finishing at the top of the division in the AL West. So I would flip Texas and Houston, and I would agree with Seattle being third, Los Angeles Angels being fourth, and Oakland being fifth. I think that the 3 through 5 is accurate, but I would change the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers. So I have Texas finishing at the top of the division, followed up by Houston, Seattle, Los Angeles, the Oakland A's. All right, Houston, they did just extend Jose Altuve, and they did sign Josh Hader as their closer. But again, I still see Texas finishing at the top of the division. But as I'm talking about this, there are some question marks in the Rangers' starting rotation. So there are some question marks about that. But the only reason why I'm putting them at the top of the division is because they're the defending world champs. But again, we'll see how this all plays out. All right, so that is the AL side. Now let's move to the NL side. All right, let's look at the NL East. So the Pecota is projecting the Atlanta Braves to finish at the top of the division, which rightfully so. The Atlanta Braves had an amazing 2023 season. I'm sure most of us projected them to win the whole thing, but they were eliminated. They didn't even reach the World Series. So we thought that they were going to go all the way, but they got beat in the playoffs. So they didn't even get to see or make a trip to the World Series. So this seems accurate. The only change that I would make if it was me, if I was projecting this, I would go Atlanta, Philadelphia. I would probably go Miami, New York Mets, then Washington. So I would flip the New York Mets and the Miami Marlins. So those are the two teams that I would flip. But Atlanta finishing at the top of the division, I do agree with this. That's what I would expect. I would expect the Braves to finish at the top of the division again. But, look out for the Phillies. All right. The Phillies did well in the playoffs last season. And don't be surprised if they finish at the top of the division. But I do have the Atlanta Braves finishing at the top of the division, and then followed up by Philadelphia. But I would put Miami at number 3, New York Mets at number 4, the Washington Nationals in last place. So that's how I would project these teams to finish. Okay. Now, let's look at the NL Central. So the NL Central is always interesting. I feel like with this division, just like the AL Central, it could be wide open. Now, for me, I originally had the Milwaukee Brewers finishing at the top of the division because they have a good team. They still had Corbin Burns, but then we all know what happened with Corbin Burns. He got traded to the Baltimore Orioles. All right. St. Louis finishing at the top of the division. I can see that. They have a young team full of talent, and they did sign Sonny Gray, so they got a good starting pitcher with some experience. So they have it being the St. Louis Cardinals finishing at the top of the division, followed up by the Chicago Cubs, Milwaukee Brewers, Cincinnati Reds, and Pittsburgh finishing last. So I will say the Chicago Cubs have been pretty quiet this offseason. I don't know if they're still in on Cody Bellinger. If they were to sign Cody Bellinger back, I can see them competing with St. Louis. But if I had my projections, and I'm not saying I'm right on any of my projections, these are guesses on my part, I can see St. Louis followed up by Milwaukee, then the Cubs, then the Reds, then the Pirates. So I'm flipping the Brewers and the Cubs. So I have the Brewers finishing second place. Then Chicago Cubs third place, the Cincinnati Reds finishing fourth, Pittsburgh fifth. So the only thing I'm flipping is Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. But I'm not counting out the Brewers in this division. So personally, I don't have them finishing third, even with them losing Corbin Burns. I still think they can play well again in the NL Central, because NL Central is not really the strongest of divisions, but it's definitely going to be very competitive. All right. And last, let's look at the NL West. All right. Pecota is projecting the Dodgers to finish at the top of the division, which, rightfully so, followed up by Arizona, San Francisco, San Diego, Colorado. The Dodgers finishing at the top of the division, I can understand why. The Dodgers have been extremely busy this offseason. They did add Shohei Ohtani, but I do feel as though the Dodgers starting rotation is full of question marks, just because a lot of these guys are injury prone or have an injury history. So we'll see what happens with their starting pitching. And Shohei Ohtani is not pitching this season either. So their starting rotation, it has a history full of injured players, and there's a lot of question marks about that. I think their bats are going to be fine. Their bullpen still remains to be seen. We'll see what happens with that. But Arizona added a couple of players this offseason too. They did add Jock Peterson. They also added Eduardo Rodriguez to the team as well. So they've made a couple of upgrades to their team, and they could very well, compete with the Dodgers, and they're going to be that team that's going to be a pain for the Dodgers. So I could see Arizona finishing at the top of the division and the Dodgers finishing second. But at the same time, I myself am projecting the Dodgers to finish at the top of the division. So I actually do agree with how this division plays out. So I do agree that the Dodgers finish at the top of the division, followed up by Arizona, San Fran, San Diego, Colorado. This one, to me, I wouldn't change. I wouldn't flip anything, but watch out for the Diamondbacks. They surprised a lot of people last year in 2023. They were the team that made it to the World Series and played the Texas Rangers, which I know many of us, including myself, did not expect, but it happened. So we'll see how this division plays out. Now, again, I do want to point out whatever I said, however I feel about these teams finishing out the year. These are just my guesses. I'm not saying that this is how it's going to end up. The games need to be played. Everything we could look at things on paper and say, well, this is how things are going to play out. But we truly don't know. There's a lot of factors that go into how teams will perform, how they will play. So we'll see what happens. There's 162 games that need to get played, and you never know, right? Baseball is a funny game. A lot of weird things happen. A lot of surprises happen. So we'll see how it all plays out. We're getting closer and closer to spring training. Before you know it, opening day will be here, and baseball will be here. It is here. To me, it's here. So let's get excited. So you all tell me what you think, whether you agree, disagree. Let's load up the comments. I hope you all have a good Sunday. Hopefully you all enjoy the Super Bowl. If news comes out, I'll let you know. So if you're new to this channel, please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video. Share this out with anyone you know. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see you all next time.